Got it. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Solutions with our beautiful Bryce. First time we're going live on this channel. So happy to have you as our first livey, Bryce. We got a live one here. And we are so excited because we've got a little slap on the wrist on Aquarius Rising Africa for sharing truths. But we shall continue. So we've taken it over to Solutions for the next week or two. And we'll also obviously be posting this on all our back channels and stuff. But I'm really excited because we are going to be talking about the Paris Catacombs.
I'm so excited.
Weary.
I know, I love macabre stuff. Like I'm like one of those weirdos. Even before the Great Awakening, I love like the macabre, you know, like my favorite series of all time was American Horror Story, even though we know that's not a good bunch that makes it, but I just love all that stuff. Maybe it's because I'm from the Deep South. I don't know. But I actually covered the Paris Catacombs a long time ago on my channel. But since we've been looking at France, and I will say it again, like props to the French royalty because they don't hide a lot. So it makes it easy for research when you're looking for clues as to what this group of people have been doing. And so I was like, let's go back and review the Paris Catacombs. And I just talked to you guys before we went live to keep going forward and keep looking at all these catacombs, because catacombs, they're effing weird. Like we don't really have that stuff here in America. And so it's kind of fascinating. These like tunnels of like doom of just like bones, like why, you know? So, and there's a lot of interesting shenanigans that have been going on in the Paris Catacombs. And this is something a lot of the old European cities have. And so that's why we're going to look at all of them. So I'm
so excited. This is so exciting.
I know. And next time I go, I've obviously been to Paris, but I didn't know the catacombs were there. And I was like, damn it. When I was researching this, I was like, I was right there, because I would have loved to have gone into the catacombs just to see them and to see this monstrosity of all these bones. So what is a catacomb? So I'm going to explain this. According to the official definition, now I want you guys to remember, this is the official definition of a catacomb. It's a man-made subterranean passageway for religious practices. Ding, ding, ding. Religious practices. They are also used as burial chambers or ossuaries. Okay, so but the main definition is not, it doesn't first say, oh, a place where you put dead people. It literally says that this is a man-made subterranean passageways for religious practices. Well, what religion requires you to do things in the dark underground? Interesting, right? Because
exactly.
Most of the non-nefarious religions, you can just do it open in the daylight. You know, why do you have to hide underground?
Exactly. It's only the dodgy ones that want to go beneath it all, beneath the surfaces and do creepy crawly things there. Yeah, yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I thought that was really interesting when I read that. And the funny thing is when I first did my first show on the Paris Catacombs, I don't even think I looked up the definition, but something told me, let me just look and see what the official definition is. Like, well, they got to tell you the truth, right? So there you go. So, so the Paris Catacombs hold the remains of more than 6 million people. Y'all, that is the population of Atlanta, Georgia, is 6 million. That's what's underneath Paris. Paris's population is only 2 million, which I thought was wild that it was only 2 million people, but 6 million people is the population of Atlanta, Georgia. And that's what they guesstimate is the amount of bodies that are under in the Paris Catacombs. So that's huge. It's like 2 dead people for 1 living person in Paris, basically. Okay. So
3.
Do what?
3. Isn't it?
Yeah,
3?
Sorry, 3 to 1. Yeah, to 1. So that's wow. You know,
that's wild.
It is wild. You know, here in the United States, they call like New Orleans is like the city of the dead because there's so many, you know, they in New Orleans, they bury people above ground in tombs because of they're below sea level. So with hurricanes, you just would have bodies floating. So that's why they have their tombs above ground. But even in like Savannah, Georgia, it's a city built on the dead because they built on a bunch of graveyards. But this is wild, like six, and I don't even know if that would be possibly even accurate, because that's a guesstimation, because these tunnels date back at least 2,000 years. Now, I'm not 100% sold on the official history, because I'm starting to kind of try to untie some tangled webs that I think they've weaved in our education system. And I know people are going to kind of freak out when I say this, but I don't actually at this point think that the Roman Empire really existed. I think we're actually in the Roman Empire right now. I think what we're seeing with the ruins are Atlantis is what I actually think that we're seeing, because I believe the apocalypse has already happened, that it was the fall of Atlantis. And so I know I might change my mind later, but I'm just going to give you guys what the official narrative is, which dates back to the Roman Empire. Take that with a grain of salt. Again, history is going to be interesting once we are given the full truth of what how they've skewed things. So it's made of limestone. So these tunnels were allegedly dug by the Romans after the conquer of Gaul. So Gaul would have been France at that time. Because this soil is rich in limestone, they quarried the tunnels to use the limestone to actually build the city of Paris. Now, the interesting thing about Paris, and I'm sure this is true with a lot of older cities, even cities in the United States, I'm going to say that too. We don't really think about the United States or Canada being old because it got conquered and redeveloped. But we know that this group, they understand ley lines. They understand where there's energy cycles in the earth. And so I believe that they've been placing cities on top of particular, I kind of call them like Earth's chakra points. Like there's an energy cycle above, and Paris was built on top of a lot of older temples, like where Notre Dame is. It was built on top. I believe it was a temple to Jupiter. I think they built Notre, if I remember correctly from my research, on top of a Jupiter temple. So, just take that for what it is. Limestone, we know stones are very, hold a lot of power. Here in Georgia, we talked about the Georgia Guidestones. We have the granite capital. You can go to Stone Mountain or Arabian Mountain and actually feel the charge coming from the granite. So I'm sure the limestone, I'm sure they were savvy to what limestone could do energetically to a population. All right. So the catacombs today in Paris are over 180 miles. I don't know how long that is in kilometers, guys. Sorry for the people who use kilometers, but 180 miles, that's a hell of a lot of tunnels underneath the city of Paris. It's like a labyrinth. And, but now there is a section of the catacombs open to the public, and that's less than half a mile the public is allowed to go to. And I think, Morning, I sent you pictures of they've designed the bones. This is how macabre this is. And from what I understand, they have to have like artists go in and like reset the bones up just to make sure they stay in place, because and these guys, these bones are like, these are like 2,000. This is what I was thinking about this, because some of these bones are like over 2,000 years old. It's like you could be in the Paris catacombs looking at a skull of someone you were in the past. Like how wild is that? Because it could have been one
crazy.
So, and we know that it's about 2,000 years old, because before Europe was conquered by the Romans, and then eventually this new religion of Christianity was started. Cremation was what the pagans did. They cremated bodies. So before Christianity became a stronghold in Europe, there wasn't a whole lot of burial going on. It was cremation. And so they all of a sudden needed a place to store the dead once they decided that you're not allowed. Now, this is interesting to me. Now, Chantelle, you've been in India. They cremate in India as well. There's big where it's actually their funeral ceremonies are quite almost entertaining in the sense where they do parades and they walk the body in flowers and stuff. And so they play music and then they bring the body and they cremate it. And so it's beautiful. And then the body's gone, it's ashes. But we know that this group, they like having bodies, don't they? They like having their hands on. So it makes sense that if we know that especially the Catholic Church being the first organized church going back from the Council of Nicaea with Constantine, who changed Christianity into Mithraism, that there might have been an alternative purpose as to why they wanted outlawed cremation. Yeah. So this is when this all kind of started. So they needed what we call now cemeteries. And they also needed a carnal house. So a carnal house is a vault where human remains were stored. So what they would originally do is everyone was kind of buried in the same like grave pit. I found this so fascinating, guys. I don't know why I find this so fascinating, but they would put all these bodies. So like you could collect the bodies, like bring out your dead, you know, within the year and drop them off and all in this big old pit, right? Rich people, poor people, paupers, kings, all were put in the same pit. This was a long time ago. And once the body started to rot, then they would move the bones into this vault. So this is before the catacombs. This is kind of what they were doing. But now we know what happens if dead bodies are constantly around the city. You have the spread of disease. You have the spread of sicknesses. Yeah. And so now we have to figure out another way to you know, house dead bodies. And so now we got to start burying them. Well, again, there is there's not, you know, God ain't making any more land as far as we know. So when you've got all these like cemeteries, you're going to eventually start to run out of space. Now, again, like I said, the Romans, as we've been told, had already dug out these limestone tunnels underneath the city of Paris. So what started to happen too was because these tunnels were there, it made building complicated because buildings would fall down sometimes into these tunnels. All right. So everything went to hell in a handbasket on May 31st of 1780. And a basement wall on a property next to a cemetery, so the wall in the cemetery shared a wall, buckled under the weight of the bodies. So could you imagine the horror story? Could you imagine sitting and all of a sudden the wall just breaks through and all of a sudden he's like, there's grandma, you know, just falling out. I mean,
this is gross. Oh my gosh.
Imagine the PTSD from that. Like talking about trauma. Like that is wild. So Louis the 16th was the monarch at this time. So who was Louis the 16th? Well, last time we talked about the affair of the poisons with Louis the 14th, who was his great grandfather. Louis the 16th was the the monarch who would eventually get his head with Marie Antoinette during not long after this happened by the French Revolution. Again, I've said it many times. No one throws a revolution like the French. Like the French just go balls to the wall when it comes to revolutions. So if I were in political leadership in France, I would be slightly terrified right now because they will haul your ass on the street and just right then and there. I mean, they've done it before. So, I mean, fair play to the French people, like, you know, like you guys really do.
I've heard as well, even in modern day times, that the French police are particularly brutal. I mean, really? One would not think that, yes. And I know this from people who've actually studied there in France and were students.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was told in no uncertain terms, you don't mess around with a French policeman. No.
I mean, I have a little bit of French in my ancestry. Last time I said I had a little bit of French in me, and one of my good friends like died laughing because I guess that sounded dirty. But I have a little bit of French in me from my ancestry. But yeah, that show we just ended up cracking up the whole time. But it's when you go back and study like the Wars of the Religions, which was Catherine de Medici, which we covered a couple weeks before that. It's brutal. Like fair play to the French people because they go hard. Like they go hard. They're savage when it comes to this kind of stuff. So again, if I was a political leader in France right now, I would be probably crapping my pants because I think I would rather have civilized removing myself from the earth plane than the way that, I mean.
Yeah, exactly.
I thank you, French people, for being so savage when it comes to moving through revolution.
Your language sounds so beautiful, but it's very deceptive.
I know, right? I know. I'm trying to be careful with the algorithms, but well, the interesting thing about Marie Antoinette and Louis the 16th, and of course, allegedly she was the one that said, "Oh man, madam, they don't have bread. We'll let them eat cake," which we don't even know if she actually said that that or not, but you know, things were happening in Paris that weren't good. You know, think of Victor Hugo's Les Miserables. Like this was a very tumultuous time in France in general. What we know, or so we hear, that Marie Antoinette and Louis XVI. Now, Marie Antoinette was not a Huguenot. She was oh, my mind's weird, a Habsburg. Weird, I was like the weird draws where they're all inbred. She was a Habsburg from Austria, and obviously Louis XVI was the House of Bourbon in France, and their children that they had allegedly, so they say, ended up, after their parents were removed forcibly from the earth by having their heads removed from their bodies, their children went on to become the Paysor family, which we know is the tip top of the problems that we're having in today's world. And allegedly they were brought to America and raised here as Americans. I don't know the full story. There are people who are far more proficient researchers when it comes to that lineage than I am. So when Louis XVI was hit with this problem of like literal zombies floating around Paris because there's no space to put dead people, he, with some of his government, planned to actually make use of these tunnels. Now, I believe that the tunnels were probably already in use by the House of Bourbon and Valois. Like, we're not stupid, you know, like we're not stupid. So I think that's why he knew. And I guess there was kind of like killing two birds with one stone, as the expression goes, where, oh, we can now transport a bunch of remains into these tunnels. The public will think it's because this is a great place to bury them. Meanwhile, we have now access to body parts that we might need for our particular religion. We'll just say it that way. But they did do something kind of decent for the population, because it took them months to move all the bodies into the catacombs. And they did this at night as to not freak people out, which, so that was kind of nice of them. Like, you know, they were a little considerate about not
very considerate. Yeah, they're very, very considerate.
Or they were trying to hide something even more dodgy.
Exactly, right? I mean, literally bring out your dead. So like they would get these like carts, because this is the late 18th century. This is 1780. So they're having to drive these carts all night with like stacks of bodies to then drop them in the catacombs, you know? So interesting. So there's some interesting stories around the catacombs. Like there's Philbert Asper, I'm probably saying his name wrong because I don't speak French, 1793. There were businesses that were on top of these catacombs. So if you owned a business and you were underneath the catacomb, you had access. Well, guess what? That's free storage. It's like a basement. And so a lot of these restaurants and pub houses, bars would utilize the catacombs to store beer, all that kind of stuff. And it's so cold down there that it kind of worked as a refrigerator as well. Now, here's the thing about the catacombs. Some of the catacombs go really deep into the earth. And if you don't have a light, you're SOL. You're not coming out. You're shut out of luck. You're disoriented. I mean, people apparently get lost in the catacombs all the time. And so they think that is what happened with this man, because he went down to the catacombs to retrieve some alcohol and he never came back again. And this is somebody who had been going down back and forth all the time to get supplies. And they found his body 11 years later. Basically, it looked like he had gotten lost. Now, did he really get lost? I don't know. We're questioning everything at this point in our modern day understanding of the shit show that's been going on for a long time now. So
yeah, it really is a bit of a shit show. And especially there.
Yes,
like
yeah. I mean, what is it Dr. Northup called Earth, the gangster planet? Like, we're literally the planet that the aliens lock the door when they're driving by, because we are the gangster planet. Like,
South Africa.
Like, I mean, even though some of the bad aliens are like, oh no, we're not going that far. Like the Earthlings, like
we'll divert today.
Like, damn, Earthlings, you guys really take that polarity seriously, don't you? So now, before we get to some modern stuff that I find very fascinating about the catacombs, there are people, and obviously during World War II, the catacombs were used by both the Nazis and the French resistance. So this is fascinating. This just shows you how confusing the catacombs are and how people get very disoriented. Apparently, the headquarters for the Nazis in World War II in the catacombs and the French resistance in World War II in the catacombs were like a mile apart from each other. And I had no idea. They had no idea they were that close to each other. That's how like intricate these catacombs are. So there are people who, and I think these people are probably the most badass people out there. So if you're one of these people, like my hat's off to you. They're called cataphiles. All right. And they're people who, they basically break into the catacombs to explore them. And you can actually, like, some of these people, so you'll go, if you're one of these people, you'll break in, you'll see graffiti everywhere. People will have raves down there, because they're breaking in and they're trying to explore these 180
between
miles.
the dead bodies. They're raving between the dead bodies.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, they explore it too. And I'll tell you why this is interesting, because we're going to get to something that happened in 2004. So because of the cataphiles, apparently speaking of the French police, they now have a whole French police force that is specifically designated to monitor the catacombs. No, thank you. Like the videos I've seen of the catacombs, I don't want to go explore the catacombs. Like some of these videos I've seen, I'm like, I will be a cataphile from my desk. I will just watch from my desk. Like that shit's scary. Like no, thank you. I want to go to the place that's marked off for people. I want to see that, but I don't want to go digging into these tunnels, and I don't know what you're going to run across, in these tunnels. But so in 2004, make sure I got it. Oh, and also, so this is interesting too. And if you're living in Paris, France, you're watching this right now, let us know if this is true or not. Because last time I was in Paris, France, I was not checking the manholes to the sewage. Was not checking it, did not think to bend down and see if they were bolted down. But apparently cataphiles got so big in Paris, France, breaking into the catacombs, that now all the manholes where you can drop down have been like welded shut. So civilians can't get into the catacombs. So any of the Parisians out there, like, go check and let us know if they're welded shut. So in 2004, y'all, get this. This is wild. And of course, if you look on like Wikipedia or Google, you're going to get a completely different like synopsis of what happened. No, y'all. 2004. These cataphiles found a full movie theater that was playing, I'll spell this because I don't want to get you guys in trouble. SNUFF.
Oh.
Is that how you spell it?
Haha movies. Bad movies.
Yeah, bad movies. Very bad movies. Attached to a full restaurant underneath in the catacombs. These cataphiles found it. Full functioning movie theater and restaurant. Now, I wonder, what are they serving in this restaurant? Obviously, this is not a licensed restaurant or licensed movie theater. Now, if you look on Wikipedia, they'll say, oh, yeah, no, it was just like normal movies and like normal. No civilian in anywhere is going to go down into the freaking tunnels and build a full-on movie theater to play Batman for their friends. That's not, and I'm sorry, they're doing your artwork outside, so I hope that's not too loud. So that was interesting. Now, they blamed it on a group called the Urban Experiment, but it seems like the Urban Experiments gets blamed for a lot of stuff. So, and we know they do that. They'll blame it on anybody that is going to make it look innocent. Oh, these people are bad. They broke the law. They didn't apply for a license. It was freaking the elites doing this crap down in the catacombs, because we know they do that anyway. Exactly. Right? I mean, hello, like, duh. So now something that interesting. Now, do you have I want to show the pictures of the catacombs so people can see the, now interesting, the area where you enter in to go to. Isn't this creepy? Like, I mean, I would like to go and just see this, but these are all, I mean, guys, what if you're like grandma's decor down there right now? Like, that's weird.
Excuse me, I was going to say, is that bones and skulls?
Yeah, that's where that's the less than half a mile that the public is allowed to go into in the catacombs.
And the cross is there too. How is that even? I mean, how do you relate the cross to these skulls and bones if you not dodgy? That's crazy.
Yes. And so apparently the area where you enter into the catacombs is a place that, and I'm not going to try to say the French pronunciation of this. The English pronunciation is called the Gates of Hell. That's where you enter into the catacombs, is the Gates of Hell for the public, for the not illegal, illegal breaking into the catacombs. So, and they make it look very, macabre with all the bones and all that stuff. Now, I don't know if I sent any pictures, Mornay, of like the other areas of the catacombs that people, it's easy to Google. If you Google it, you'll see like tons of the graffiti. Oh, that. Okay. So this man, let's get to this. So the catacombs footage. Dun, dun, dun. So footage, this is footage that was taken from the early 1990s. So there is this footage, and I think you can find some of it on YouTube. Now, I've thought about sending you guys a file, but I don't want to get you guys get copyright strikes or anything like that. But you guys, if you're watching and you're interested, you can actually find this footage. So this is a footage of a man that is lost and scared. Now, this is not the man. I'm going to get to who this man is in a second. The man who is lost and scared in the catacombs, you never see his face, all right? He's running through the tunnels. It sounds like someone is chasing him. He drops the camera and runs off. No one knows what happened to this man. So the footage of the camera gets dropped and it just kind of sits there and plays until it runs out. So in the year 2000, this footage was sent to a show here in the United States called the Scariest Places on Earth. Now, this man is a man named Francis Freeland. He's a French filmmaker who came into possession of the footage after someone apparently gave it to him that was down exploring the catacombs, found this footage, gave it to this man and said, this is interesting. You're a filmmaker. I'm going to give you this footage. All right. And he made it his mission to find out what happened. He figured out the footage was taken from 300 feet below street level, 300 feet. Now, this is a video of him this is Francis Freeland in the catacombs trying to figure out what happened to this dude, this guy that nobody even knows what he looks like. This is an image that showed up in the footage. And Francis Freeland found this image. Y'all, that is what nightmares are made out of. Like, what is that? What is that? That is not graffiti. Like, what is that? That is so freaking creepy. And that is what you see in the footage. The man sees it. You see it running as you know when something's chasing him. And then Francis Freeland found it. So that's how he knew where the guy was. It was 300 feet under the streets. But that is like the Blair Witch Project on a hyperdrive. Like, that is so freaking freaky. And so Francis Freeland never solved the case of what happened. But there's an recent interview where somebody, and this was like 20 years ago, over 20 years ago when he was on this show. And there's an interview where he's saying he's like traumatized. He's like, I'm not going back down there. I'm not going back. He like refuses to go back down. Something happened to him in the catacombs. He's like, I'm not going back down there. And he was telling the guy, like, you shouldn't go down there. Don't go down there. So my imagination, my thought process went to everything you know about what's going on down there. Like, you know how they're not only the ritualistic stuff, but like experimenting with, you know, animals and humans and all sorts of stuff that we know is going on. Like, what was chasing this guy? Now, of course, if you Google all this information about this lost footage, you will see people claiming that this is all a scam that was created by Francis Freeland or the show The Scariest Places on Earth, that it wasn't real. But y'all, if you look at Francis Freeland's face, you can't make that trauma up. Like, the look on his face where he's saying, I'm not going back down there, that's legit trauma. Something happened to him down there. So I'm hoping in the Great Awakening, we can figure out who this man was and what the hell they've been doing down in those catacombs for real. So anyway,
I think that is the golden question, right? But I don't think there'll be any surprises when we find out the truth and when all of the truth is exposed, because I really don't think there's much surprises going on there. When we realize, I mean, that they've now, chances are they actually created these things all for themselves. 6 million bodies.
6 million, at least. Like, I don't know who was keeping tally, you know, when they were trying.
Can you imagine how? Can you just imagine how haunted that place must be? There must be things running around there second to none.
Are they harnessing those spirits too? Like, is that something they're doing? Are they harnessing, you know, because I don't know about you, Chantelle, but like I don't feel like when I'm in India, I don't feel like India is as haunted as like the United States or Europe. And I know it is, but I feel like it's because with the Hindu faith they accept like reincarnation. So there's more of an acceptance of mortality, where in the Western world, we cling to our lives. We cling. And so sometimes when there's a passing, a human being doesn't want to let go. And so if that was happening, and if they're harnessing like spiritual energy from people who had passed even 1,000 years ago, like WTF, like that's effed up. Like that, like these people
I
don't know
think
now.
this has been going on since the beginning of time, Bryce, and even before the beginning of the time that we understand it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, if we just go back to those early pictures of these leaders and stuff with the small people, and I mean, there's statues of these guys doing these things. So I think this has been going on since the beginning of time.
And you think about all the limestone that's down there, that's up on top of Paris now, but is that magnifying some of the energetic charge of these bones and these, you know, when a body is first deceased, it has all its organs and bodily fluids that it needs. And it's just like, how did we not see this before? It's like, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And why is there only less than half? Who is it? This is what I kept thinking. Who is the authority that gets to tell human beings there are places on this earth you can't go to? It's all of our earth. So why is it that only certain people are allowed in the 179.5 miles of the catacombs that we're not allowed in, but we only get this like half a mile little dinky little entrance where they're going to just display the bones in a macabre way, you know?
And sort of appease our curiosity in that way. Oh, that's just disgusting.
And who in their right mind would think the monarch was just going to be a nice guy and be like, oh, we have these tunnels, we'll just put the bodies down there. No.
I think for that, they have just controlled the narrative for thousands of years. So they just, and the thing that boggles my mind is why humans always just trust the narrative, like what the people say is happening, you know. And now, if we look in the modern age now with movies and everything, they've started desensitizing us, you know, making us used to, you know, Indiana Jones colored boats. I actually watched it yesterday. Oh my God, because Jesse was making reference to that. They put all the truth in that movie, you know, seeing skulls, it's an you know, you're like a hero exploring. They just really make everything sound like very old, ancient, not happening. This is what they did, but actually they're actually doing the same thing, and it's a lot more real than we ever thought that it could be. Real.
I mean, once again, y'all,
I've never watched Indiana Jones.
I know I'm gonna put that on my list now to rewatch, but full freaking movie theater. Like, who puts what human? Okay, let's like think about this logically. It's 2004, and if you're just a normal, everyday like us human being, and you're like, you know what? You know what's a really good idea? I think I'm going to start a business. I'm going to create a movie theater and a restaurant. Why the hell would you put it down in the catacombs and not market it? You're not going to make money. It doesn't. The narrative they give you makes no effing sense. It's not a business. I mean, if you want to put it down in the catacombs and you're allowed to market it and have people come experience watching, you know, Batman and Robin, and then having like a, you know, spaghetti at the restaurant afterwards, fine. But they're not marketing.
The skulls looking at you.
I know.
Thank you.
No one's thinking this is not some like business entrepreneur that's like, this is a great idea. There's no money to be made if it's a normal person. So that means to tell you, like, especially if it's a full blown movie. It's not like they were just like sitting there like putting a projector on the screen. It was a full freaking movie theater. Movie theater. I mean, come on, people! Exactly. Wow, it's so obvious what's happening here. And so that when I reviewed this, because I covered this on my channel like a long time ago. And as I was reviewing for this show with you guys today, I was like, we gotta look at all the freaking catacombs now, because when one is dirty, they're all probably dirty, all of them.
I'm sure.
Exactly.
Let's call them out. Like, let's call a spade. Like, what the hell is going on in these catacombs? So, and you wonder, are they connected to each other? You know,
I'm sure it's part of the tunnel system. Same as the tunnel systems with dams and everything. I'm sure everything. Yeah. Is so much connected.
Must be. To me, it can't. To me, that's the obvious thought. Yeah. But I would love to explore that more for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Like I should get my Indiana Jones cat for this series because as a little boy that show inspired me to go dig and stuff. So
yeah.
I'll get and
I have
become an archaeologist, right?
Yeah, I want to find dinosaurs and treasure.
Instead, you found a movie theater. I'm kidding.
Dragon egg.
This is crazy. Like, this is freaking crazy. But I mean, if anybody's watching right now who is a legit cataphile, like, I would like to hear from you personally. I mean, I don't think there's anybody that ordains anybody a cataphile because it's illegal. I think you just become one, but I would love to like hear more about what is being found down in these freaking tunnels, because holy, I mean, I can't, could you imagine how traumatizing that would be to run across a theater playing those types of, you're just like exploring, probably like you, Mornay, you're like, what treasure am I going to find? And then you're like, holy crap, like, what is this?
But what's even more scary is who is actually playing, or who is playing those movies at that point in time? Who's the one pressing play? I would be running from that.
Yeah, that's those are the real monsters, right? Are the ones that are that are using that, utilizing that. And you wonder, like, what other chambers are down there? What other? And then you again, do they connect? Like, does that then connect to the Vatican? Like, does it connect up to London? Like, we know that there's a tube subway that goes under the English Channel. So who's to say there's not like a tunnel connected? Because Paris is north. Like, you can get the tube, you know, like, who's to say that they're not moving around underground with each other? Because it's all, what is it, George, that comedian said, it's all one big club and you're not in it. You know, like, they're all one big club. So, and if Louis the 16th was so familiar, you know, the normies would say, of course he was familiar. He was head of the government. He knew these tunnels were there because of the limestone. No. I think he was familiar because I think his family had been utilizing these tunnels for generations for their religious practices. And it was like, again, killing two birds with one stone. We have this issue. Our city's being overrun with dead bodies, and and people are starving because it was right before the French Revolution, so they're starving. And we got to try to appease the people. So we're going to be like, guess what? Your kind, nice government is going to open up these tunnels for burial for grandma and grandpa. No, now we're going to take the bodies and use them for our rituals too. So now we've got an easy access to these bodies.
And the people are so gullible, because of course the government knows everything, and they're the wise ones, and they know, oh gosh, let's not even go there, please.
Yeah.
Eek.
The whole brother is taking care of you, not watching you, but taking care of you. No. Yeah.
Ain't happening. Wow.
It's done.
Very interesting, Bryce. Very, very interesting. Wow. I mean, those skulls sitting there in the wall looking at you, and now I must go and have my spaghetti bolognese.
No, well, it's probably not the spaghetti bolognese, I'm sure.
No, it's probably not. It's probably
the skull's grandchild or something. No,
isn't that? I mean, that's what I got cracked up. I was like, could you imagine? Because I believe in reincarnation. I believe we've lived multiple lives, but you could be like chilling in the catacombs, like on a tour, you know, looking at these skulls, and you literally could be looking at yourself from like 2000.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's me.
Absolutely.
That's
wow.
So yeah, and I'm putting this out here. I've already said many times that I wish to be cremated, because just let my ashes go.
I agree. I couldn't even, and I mean, I remember my dad always said, there's no ways he wants to be buried anywhere. Please just cremate and let him fly free. And I must say that has always made sense for me from when I was yay high.
Ashes
and
to ashes,
even better, put me on a mountain and let the hawks and things munch on me. Yeah, I'm so happy for that.
Then you become a hawk.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a circle.
Like, for the sharks, I want to become one of those strong, big sharks just swim the ocean.
I'm gonna have like a list of places for people to take parts of my ashes everywhere, just so I'm like all over the earth, like all over it, you know. But I mean, isn't that amazing? Like, the more we're finding out, like, at least for me, like, you know, I doing these deep dives into the or the how the Christian faith originated, as far as like the controlled matrix from the Council of Nicaea versus what it originally was, which is totally different from the faith we have now, because now Christianity is basically Mithraism. And then seeing like the pagan, you know, all three of us are of European descent. So three of us, our ancestors were obviously pagan. And we've been taught all these horrible things about the pagan religion and all that kind of stuff. And then you go back and you relook at stuff, you're like, wait a minute. Were those horrible things propaganda to get us to commit to Mithraism and give all our money and souls to the church? Like, and knowing that the pagans did cremate, they cremated souls. And then you look at a culture like India, which is so old, and they do that as well. They cremate. Although I've heard, I don't know if this is true or not, but I've heard that when a person passes away in India, the oldest son has to actually stomp on the skull to break it before cremation to like free the spirit.
Sure.
Like, I don't know if I could do that if I were like the oldest son. I'd be like, I can't do this. I don't know if I could watch that.
No, I could not do that. But I have heard that. And that's part of their, but I suppose when you grow up with that, Bryce, it's part normal. Of their rituals, it's part of what they do. It probably is normal, but I definitely know.
Yeah, no, I could not watch that happen. Like and to have to do it, to feel that under your foot. But yeah, if you're used to that, if you've seen your grandpa, your grandma, your whoever, we've all been to multiple funerals in our lives. Like, I guess it's just normal at that point, but yeah, I do know they stomp the head to break the skull to allow a release of the spirit. So
well, that's fascinating. If you think that the caves that we were just talking about, their skulls are like intact. So, and it goes back to the crystal skull theory. So what is it about the skull being intact and why break? So that's a whole new deep dive on its own.
That is a big deep dive. I have to look and see if I can find. Well, like the top of the head, the crown where the baby is born, and it's not fully together yet. The soft spot, and then of course that is where a lot of yoga postures, like headstand, you're placed here. Yeah. Like there's a lot of where you put your head, you tuck down to touch there. There's a lot of sacred places.
They call it the soft spot of your head. The soft spot of your head in yoga, and I know we call it the soft spot of your head.
Yeah.
And that it doesn't only come together just as a matter of interest when you're 21 or something?
I don't know.
I've heard that. I think it only
21 years or 21 months?
21 years
or months.
Yeah.
Years?
Sure.
Well, I know I know they, in America at least, they bumped the age of adolescence up to 23. Like that's the end of the age of like adolescence, is it adolescence? Anyway, which I agree with, because at 20, 21, you're still so young. You're not even fully. I mean, we talked about that with Saturn, with the Saturn return coming around the age of 27. That's kind of when you do take that jump into being more practical.
When you're baptized into life.
Yes,
life
whether you like it or not.
Real.
It's like a baptism of fire. Like whether you want it or not, there you go.
Well, it could be drowning or baptism. But it's going to be your choice.
Yes. So, it's funny because we were talking about the spider bite, which we're going to do spider medicine soon. I got that at 27. Like all these things happen around that age for people, and it's because that's when you really an adult at that point. That's when it's like, in your early 20s, if you mess up, it's kind of cute, whatever, you're young. But after 27, it's not cute anymore. You got to take responsibility.
You got to transform. Yeah. And in fact, my first spider bite that I had was on the side of my leg, and that was 4 months after my fiance passed away.
Wow.
And I was 29. I was 29 when that happened.
That's that window, that Saturn return window.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting. Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
And that was a real transformation for me. Most definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. It is when it's like Ram Dass said that in one of his books, like when you're going through your life and you hit these obstacles and these quote unquote like bad things happen that you perceive to be bad, but then when you turn around at a certain age and look back at the timeline of your life, everything makes sense. Everything starts to make sense. Why certain things had to happen when they did, because it propelled you into a trajectory, which really is all about your transformation. And it's like stepping stones to the next spot, to the next spot, to the next spot. And so it all starts to really, really make sense when you spiritually look at that. So
absolutely. Everything makes sense when you spiritually look at it through the eyes of your creator. It really does. You might get a little bit night blind every now and again.
Yeah.
Might be a bit of fuzzy vision, but when you align, it makes sense. It's also true.
Don't worry. There are many times when I've like been screaming at God, like, why? But then afterwards you're like, oh yeah, okay, cool. I see what you did there, God. It's fine. I see it now. Sorry about that. Sorry about
that. You ever talk to me again?
I know. You hate me. And then you're like, okay. My bad. I see.
You don't really hate me.
No.
So true. Wow.
With things like the catacombs, what I hope people there's so much, like we were chatting before we came on about the goings on of the world. And there's so much like we don't know that we're speculating on as far as like how everything is playing itself out. And we have wise guesses about what's going on based on evidence and things that have been said and things we know. But when you go back and look at like the catacombs or the House of Valois, Catherine de Medici, it's something that people can do. And I hope that's what people, that you go back and look at these things and educate yourself and see like where we miss things to begin with. And things do start to make sense more. And so you start to take your power back when you understand that the story they told you in 2004 about the movie theater and the catacombs makes no effing sense. Their story, but then you read the reports of what really was found, it makes sense. And knowledge is power. Ignorance is bliss, as they say, but knowledge is power. And when you once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's like now every time you watch one of these players speak on TV, regardless of what country it is, you notice everything. You notice the timestamp they're saying stuff. You notice their hand placement. You notice where the hand in the pocket. Like you notice everything at this point. You can't be fooled anymore. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. You can't be fooled anymore. And so this stuff is fascinating to me because it's empowering. It's empowering this is our Earth. This is our Earth. It's not, we're taking it back. It's ours. Those are our
and
times.
I love what you said earlier on. It makes such sense. It's like it is our Earth, and who the F are they to tell us we can't go to places?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
We're not renting space from them. Like this is our planet. We all own this planet together. And we need to know what's on here. We need to look at the hard stuff, see what's going on in these catacombs so that we can course correct. We can't change the past, but we can change the future.
Exactly. And we can't change the future unless we've understood what's happened in the past. And, we can change the future, but if we want to change the future to a direction that serves us all and serves us better, we have to go back and see what we did wrong or ignored or were blissfully ignorant to in the past, that we were walking around with eyes wide shut. And now when we can open our eyes, lift the veils, see what's been going on, we can say, we won't be doing that again.
Yep. And I just had a thought when we're able to, I want you and Mornay to go down all these catacombs and play the bowls. And for all those poor souls that are trapped down there.
That would be awesome. Now, that I would love to do. I'll go with that one.
Definitely.
Most definitely. I would love to. How many people are stuck down there in their spiritual form and they're not able to get out because they've been entrapped by whatever hocus pocus is being used.
You know what would be a good thing is if we use those photographs, just those photographs of the skulls and the things and the what have you, the entrances and what have you, that would be a good way to even do it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a challenge then I'm putting out to everybody who's a healer, who's watching. Go to DuckDuckGo. Google will have images too, but go to DuckDuckGo and pull up all the images you can of the Paris Catacombs, and let's do that collectively and try to help these people that are stuck down there.
Absolutely, because there's no ways. One thing I do know, I've had the gift of seeing spirits since I was born, basically. And I understand that not just human, animal as well. I understand the more traumatized the spirit is or a being is, that spirit remains trapped.
Yeah.
And what happens is then they don't go into the light and then receive their healing and mentoring from their guides and whoever before they reincarnate again. They stay here and they stay trapped. And then they'll use the next available body to come into. And that's how the trauma increases, and especially with animals. But we can have a talk about that on another day, because that for me is very, very significant and has been for a long time. When spirits are trapped, when energies are trapped, they will use whatever bodies are available. And that's why in certain areas, you're going to find so much trauma, slaughterhouses, things like that. So it's not just about not eating the flesh or eating the flesh or whatever. You understand, we take responsibility for the spirit that inhabited that flesh to begin with. Mhm.
Well, I actually had a thought too, guys. We were talking about like the trauma, since the narrative is like we don't know who most of these bodies were because they're so apparently so old, But what if, because we know history, a lot of history is manipulated, what if those bones are literally bones of people that have been used in these rituals and they're on display right now and we're none the wiser? We're going down and looking at them, taking pictures, but what if they're not 2,000-year-old bones? Do you see what I'm saying? I don't know for sure. We have no way of really knowing, but we know things have been so manipulated, and they like to show their work. They're proud of their work. So they want us to to pay money into their fraudulent system, whichever country it is, doesn't matter. It's all the same thing.
Or they might be using those old ancient bones as their display, because I'm sure there might be some archaeologists and stuff that will say, okay, well, how old are these bones and what have you, that would go there and make sure they are as old as what they say, or roughly. But why are we then not allowed to go further in?
Yeah.
And whose 6 million bodies are down there? And that's what I would say.
Because if you watch footage, especially the footage of the guy that's running, like it's like rooms, like there are rooms off of the tunnels that are just bones are just piled on top of each other. Like no organizations are just thrown in there on like a bunch of femur bones laying on top of each other, It's so, I mean, it just shows you the level of psychopathy that these people have, just to be able to toss bodies and not have any type of emotional, like empathy.
No empathy, no compassion
for the life that was lived, that inhabited that body. So yeah, you're right.
Somebody loved that being, somebody loved that, somebody nurtured that person into life, somebody cared for them, somebody invested in them, and
to have them just discarded as like trash. I mean,
not nice.
It's not nice. And so so I think that's awesome, Shanti. I think, and people can like let us know, like if you're a healer, like let's do this. Let's like rock the catacombs. That should be our theme of this series.
Rocking the catacombs. I think that should be the name of the series. Rocking the catacombs.
Let's help those fellow humans, because they were humans like we are. Let's help them. Let's help them move on so they can go and heal where they need to heal, because it would kill two birds with one stone, because if we take the more power we take away from this 1%, the easier it is going to be to end this all.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's have an off-air conversation about that, because I've got some ideas on that.
Okay, cool.
Awesome. Well, Bryce, as always, thank you for a riveting conversation and a riveting topic. And it's just so beautiful to have these discussions with you. And thank you for being our first live guest on our little tiny baby channel.
Well, I will be sharing this on my channel. Once it's up, I'm going to put it over in my community tab, guys. So people watching from my channel, if you're catching this on my community tab, please go over and subscribe to Solutions by Aquarius Rising Africa. And if you, for some reason, have not subscribed to Aquarius Rising Africa, go subscribe to them, because they're on a 2-week forced vacation. They're in timeout. So they got their badge. It's a badge of honor. It's just a medal. It's a badge of honor.
Exactly.
So you're over target when that happens.
Exactly. We get it. We're growing up now. We're playing with the big girls. And the big boys as well. But I like to say we're all big girls around here. So it's wonderful to have you here, Bryce. Thank you. And Mona, as always, thank you as well for your invaluable contributions on and off air. Or behind the scenes and in front of the scenes, whatever you call it. But so we're growing, we're moving, we're shaking, we creating change, we're creating some lovely wave of change, and we will continue to do that. By the way, what I wanted to say is we are doing our next Sun Kids teacher training, which is coming up now in March. So if you guys, any one of the viewers, subscribers, whatever, are interested in becoming a Sun Kids facilitator, we are doing the next phase of, and we only take in 12 people again, although it's going to be the recordings, but every second week you'll do one-on-ones with me. Very, very amazing. So if you want to become a facilitator for the new kids, not new kids, but basically teaching them, I always say teaching. Kids don't need to be taught. They already know everything, but literally facilitating, offering them the tools to really stay connected with their beings on earth, creating this wave of a massive change for the new earth. Then please, I think, Morne, I will put the link below. Click on everything, be in touch with us if you want any further information. Very exciting times coming up. We definitely need as many people on board to be the creators and the facilitators of this change. And it's very exciting. We've had our first group already that's completed this course, and it's been life-changing for the facilitators. We did our first online Zoom meeting with the little kids, the Sun Kids workshop. I've been teaching them in Morne as well for 16 years now. But it's the first time I did it on Zoom, which was actually amazing. So we also got our first international kids Zoom workshop for kids coming up, I think on the 26th of March, right, Morne?
Yes.
Is that, Saturday the 26th of March, yeah. So if you've got kiddies between the age of 6 and I think we're going as far as 14 or 13, and they'd be interested in joining our workshop, please let us know. Very exciting times ahead. Definitely the time for the kids to take control and to own their spirit in these beautiful bodies, know that this is their body, their life, their choice. Just because they're a child does not mean they're insignificant. We as the adults are here just to be a guide and facilitator. And the more we are in tune with our source and ourselves and this, what is necessary on this beautiful earth, the more we open the way for these children to be themselves and be the trailblazers in their generation. So please let us know. Thank you so much, everyone. If you haven't already, give us a like, a share, and a subscribe. We're loving our new channel as well, and all of our new beautiful guests. And wonderful, again, as I said, to have the beautiful Bryce on as our first live guest.
Although it's an Aquarius Rising show that's live on our Solutions of Aquarius Rising show.
No. Desperate times call for desperate measures. It's fine. It's the solution.
We are creating solutions for the catacombs. Yeah, these are solutions for the catacombs.
There we go.
And I think it's all those thousands and millions and millions and millions and millions of people, not just in the Paris catacombs, but every catacomb, every tunnel that is calling for us to bring awareness and to set and just help release those trapped souls, because there's no doubt in my mind that there's a lot of entrapment going on there. Let's do what we need to do. Let's work our beautiful God-given magic, open the pathways energetically, and just become part of this amazing wave of change. We're either part of the change or we're resisting change. I say we are the wave of change. So God bless you all. Take good care, and we'll see you very soon. Oops. Where do I go now? Here, right?